The wedding was days away. Then I caught my fiancé with my sister. The morning sun streamed through my bedroom window, illuminating the wedding dress hanging on the closet door. In just 4 days, I would be Mrs. Elena Matthews. 4 days until I married Ryan, the man I'd loved for the past 3 years. Everything was perfect, or so I thought. I stretched in bed, savoring the quiet moment before another day of last-minute wedding preparations. My phone buzzed with a text from my younger sister, Sophia. Can't make lunch today, something came up. Rain check, love you. I frowned. This was the third time this week she'd canceled our plans. As my maid of honor, Sophia, had been strangely absent lately, always citing work emergencies or sudden headaches. I pushed down the twinge of hurt. Wedding stress affected everyone differently, I reasoned. The morning flew by in a whirlwind of phone calls with vendors. The florist confirmed the peonies would arrive Friday morning. The caterer walked me through the final menu one more time, and the venue coordinator assured me everything was on schedule. By noon, I was exhausted but exhilarated. Ryan had texted earlier that he'd be working late again. As the CFO of a tech startup, 12-hour days weren't unusual, but the frequency had increased dramatically over the past month. Building our future, he always said with that crooked smile that made my heart skip. I decided to surprise him with lunch from his favorite Thai restaurant. Maybe we could steal 30 minutes together, just the two of us, away from wedding chaos and work demands. The drive to his office building took 20 minutes. I parked in the visitors section and grabbed the takeout bags, inhaling the fragrant smell of pad thai and green curry. The security guard, James, recognized me and waved me through with a warm smile. Surprising Mr. Chen again, Ms. Robinson. Guilty as charged, I laughed. Is he in his office? Should be. Haven't seen him leave for lunch. The elevator ride to the 10th floor seemed longer than usual. Maybe it was the anticipation of seeing Ryan's face light up when I walked in, or perhaps some sixth sense was trying to warn me. Either way, my stomach fluttered with something between excitement and unease. The executive floor was unusually quiet. Most people were probably out to lunch. Ryan's corner office sat at the end of the hall, its door slightly ajar. I could hear voices inside Ryan's deep baritone and a woman's laugh. My steps slowed. That laugh, I knew that laugh. My hand trembled as I pushed the door open wider, and the scene before me shattered my world into a million irreparable pieces. Ryan sat on his desk, my sister straddling his lap, her hands tangled in his hair, their lips locked in a passionate kiss that spoke of practiced intimacy. This wasn't a first-time mistake. This was familiar territory for them. The takeout bags slipped from my numb fingers, hitting the floor with a wet thud. They broke apart at the sound, and the color drained from both their faces. Elena. Sophia scrambled off Ryan's lap, frantically smoothing down her skirt, the blue one I'd helped her pick out last month. This isn't we can explain. Don't. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Inside, I was screaming, raging, breaking apart, but outside, I was carved from ice. Just don't. Ryan stood running his hands through his disheveled hair. Elena, baby, please. Let me explain. It's not what it looks like. A harsh laugh escaped me. Not what it looks like. What exactly does it look like, Ryan? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like my fiancé and my sister were seconds away from having sex on his desk. 4 days before our wedding. So it just happened. Sophia whispered, tears streaming down her face. We didn't mean for it to... How long? I interrupted, my ice beginning to crack. How long have you been sleeping with my fiancé? They exchanged a look, a private, intimate look that twisted the knife deeper. Since my birthday party, Ryan admitted quietly. My birthday party, 3 months ago. 3 months of lies, of secret meetings, of betrayal, disguised as wedding planning sessions and sister bonding time. All those canceled lunches. I said, the pieces clicking into place. All those late nights at the office. You weren't building our future, Ryan. You were destroying it. I tried to stay away, Sophia sobbed. I did, but you're in love. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just sex, wasn't just an affair. They were in love. Oh my God, you're actually in love with each other. Ryan stepped toward me. Elena, I never meant to hurt you. You're an amazing woman. Stop. I held up my hand. Stop talking. Stop explaining. Stop existing in my universe for 1 second while I try to process the fact that the two people I trusted most in this world have been lying to my face for months. The office felt too small, the air too thin. I needed to get out before I completely fell apart. Before I gave them the satisfaction of seeing me crumble. The wedding is off, I said, surprised by how calm I sounded. Obviously, I'll handle the cancellations. You two, do whatever you want. You already have been. I turned to leave, but Sophia grabbed my arm. Elena, please, you're my sister. We can get through this. We can. I yanked my arm away. I don't have a sister. The elevator ride down was a blur. Somehow I made it to my car before the sobs came violent and overwhelming. I sat in the parking lot for an hour, crying until my eyes burned and my throat was raw. My phone exploded with calls and texts from both of them. I blocked their numbers without reading a single message. There would be time for dealing with the practical fallout later. Right now, I just needed to survive the next minute, then the next. I drove home on autopilot, my mind replaying every moment from the past 3 months, searching for signs I'd missed. Sophia's nervous energy whenever Ryan was around, the way they avoided being alone together at family dinners, Ryan's decreased interest in wedding planning letting me make all the decisions. How had I been so blind? My apartment felt foreign when I walked in. Everything reminded me of them. The couch where Ryan and I had spent countless evenings watching movies. The kitchen table where Sophia and I had addressed wedding invitations just last week. Her guilty fingers trembling slightly as she wrote. Had she been thinking of him then? Planning their next rendezvous while helping me prepare to marry him. I poured myself a generous glass of wine and sat on my bedroom floor staring at the wedding dress. $3,000 of silk and lace that would never see an altar. I should have been trying on my veil one last time confirming honeymoon reservations packing for Jamaica. Instead, I was Googling how to cancel a wedding and dealing with betrayal by family. The doorbell rang around 7. I ignored it. It rang again more insistently. I know you're in there, Elena. My best friend Maya's voice carried through the door. Sophia called me. Open up or I'm using my spare key. No, I dragged myself to the door. Maya took one look at my swollen eyes and pulled me into a fierce hug. I brought reinforcements, she said, holding up a bottle of tequila and a pint of ice cream. And I already called in sick for both of us tomorrow. We're going to get through this. That night, Maya held me while I ugly cried and raged. She helped me draft a dignified message to send to all the wedding guests, simply stating that the wedding had been canceled due to irreconcilable differences discovered between the bride and groom. She stopped me from drunk texting Ryan elaborate descriptions of where he could shove his apologies. I keep thinking about Christmas. I slurred somewhere around the 4th shot of tequila. They were both there, at my parents' house, playing board games, sharing inside jokes. Were they already... How could they sit at my mother's table and... Because they're selfish assholes, Maya interrupted. That's how. This isn't about you, E. This is about them being horrible people who made horrible choices. The next morning brought a pounding headache and the harsh reality of everything that needed to be done. I called my parents first. My mother's gasp when I told her was audible through the phone. That little... She caught herself. Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Your father and I will handle telling the extended family. You just focus on taking care of yourself. She's your daughter, too. I reminded her, my voice hollow. Not anymore, she's not? My mother's tone was steel. No daughter of mine would do this. Sophia made her choice. The wedding vendors were surprisingly understanding. Most had cancellation policies, but several waived their fees when I vaguely explained the situation. The venue coordinator even refunded half my deposit, murmuring something about karma and terrible grooms. Ryan tried to come by the apartment twice. The first time Maya answered the door and threatened him with a restraining order. The second time, I called building security. He finally got the message. Sophia was more persistent. She sent flowers, I threw them in the dumpster. She had friends deliver letters, I burned them unread. She even showed up at my office, creating a scene in the lobby, until security escorted her out. 2 weeks after the canceled wedding, I sat in my therapist's office, trying to make sense of it all. I don't know what's worse, I admitted. That they betrayed me or that they fell in love. If it was just sex, maybe I could eventually forgive. But love? How do you compete with love? You don't, Dr. Williams said gently. You don't compete. You recognize that their feelings, whatever they are, don't excuse their actions. They had choices. They could have been honest with you. Ryan could have ended your engagement. Sophia could have stepped back. Instead, they chose deception. Slowly, painfully, I began rebuilding. I threw myself into work, earning a promotion I'd been putting off while planning the wedding. I joined a hiking group, discovering a love for nature I'd never known I had. I adopted a cat, a cranky orange tabby, who seemed to understand my need for space while offering silent companionship. 3 months later, I ran into a mutual friend at a coffee shop. She shifted uncomfortably before finally blurting out, They're together. Ryan and Sophia, officially. I thought you should know. I waited for the pain, the rage, the devastating hurt. Instead, I felt empty, tired. I hope they're happy, I said, surprised to find I almost meant it. I hope it was worth it. Word of their relationship spread quickly through our social circles. Many friends chose sides, cutting them off completely. My parents refused to acknowledge Sophia's existence. She'd gained Ryan, but lost her family, most of her friends, and her reputation. I wondered if she considered it a fair trade. 6 months after the wedding, I met Oliver. He was leading a hiking trip. I'd joined a wildlife photographer, with gentle hands and an easy laugh. He knew my story. Maya had warned him, but never pushed for details. Instead, he simply showed up consistent and kind until one day I realized I was laughing again. Really laughing, not just going through the motions. I'm not ready for anything serious. I warned him over coffee after our 5th hike. Good thing I'm very patient, he replied with a smile that crinkled his eyes. A year later, I received a wedding invitation in the mail. Sophia and Ryan. The audacity took my breath away. Inside, a handwritten note from Sophia. I know you'll probably throw this away, but I had to try. I miss my sister. We never meant for it to happen this way. Please consider coming. It would mean everything to have your blessing. I stared at the invitation for a long time, then fed it to my shredder. Some bridges once burned could never be rebuilt. Oliver found me on the balcony that night, staring at the city lights. You okay? He asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. Yeah, I said, leaning into his warmth. Actually, I am. And I was. The betrayal had broken me, shattered my trust in my family, but it hadn't destroyed me. I'd built something new from the pieces, a life that was mine, relationships based on honesty, a future unencumbered by lies. 2 years after that horrible day in Ryan's office, I stood in front of a mirror in a different wedding dress. Simpler than the first, but somehow more beautiful. Maya fussed with my veil while my mother wiped away tears. You sure you don't want to invite? My mother began hesitantly. I'm sure, and I cut her off gently. Today is about moving forward, not looking back. Oliver and I exchanged vows in a small ceremony surrounded by people who had proven their loyalty. His sister served as my maid of honor, filling the space Sophia had vacated with grace and genuine affection. During the reception, Maya pulled me aside. I heard through the grapevine that they're having problems. Ryan and Sophia, apparently when you start a relationship with cheating— No, Maya, I stopped her. I don't want to know. They're not part of my story anymore. And they weren't. The girl who had blindly trusted, who had missed the signs, who had been destroyed by betrayal, she was gone. In her place stood a woman who had learned to trust again, but wisely, who had discovered that family isn't just blood, but the people who stand by you when your world falls apart. The wedding was days away when I caught my fiancé with my sister. It was the worst day of my life. It was also in its way the beginning of my real life. The life where I chose myself, where I learned my own strength, where I discovered that sometimes the most devastating endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings. As Oliver spun me around the dance floor, his eyes full of love and promise, I silently thanked Ryan and Sophia. Not for their betrayal, but for setting me free to find something real, something true, something worth having. The wedding was days away when my world ended, but from those ashes I built a better one.